Morning. Addiction. Benefits, significance, and why you should strive to have one. Throughout this speech, you will come to realize that the addiction that you have in mind at this very moment will be different from the approach I'm trying to explain to you. That tendency to be unable to remove an object or thought from the mind. The first thing that comes to mind when you wake up, and the last thing that leaves it before you go to sleep. When you're out there pursuing it, it starts to take over, your addiction controlling you rather than you controlling it. Depending on it, some people around you will tell you that it's dangerous, risky, an absolute waste of time and money. Here's a man who I think embodies this definition, Alex Honnold. Alex Honnold is an addict. He risks his life every day, hanging on to life with a thread, and in the moment, concerns his family, friends, and everyone around him. If he gets too greedy, he could die. He comes close to it every day. I showed my mom this video, and she said, this young man is out of his, I'm not going to say that right. Due to certain regulations regarding my language in this space, we'll just say she said, this man is out of his frickin' mind. Others would find Alex Honnold's expeditions as a passion. And it is true. We come to a certain point where passion is indistinguishable with addiction, and in the right context, seem the same. But this wasn't the first time I heard her say something like that. At 6 years old, me and two other friends found different ways to escape boredom. In seek of the thrill of mischief, we went to stores, swiftly and secretly sliding candy into our pockets. Never could our small 40-pound bodies carry bikes or TVs with us out of these stores, but we were always eager to fill our pockets with as many chocolate bars and other sweets without being caught. If the store was closed, I would be the one out of our Three Musketeers-like brotherhood to step in to open the lock. I was always interested in picking locks, and I still am. With just a rake pick and a tension wrench, I have helped several students on this campus locked out of their rooms. But before I used this skill for good, I thought of it as my very own superpower, me being the anti-hero of my own comic book series. However, that series came to a close. It came on a Friday night after sundown when we embarked on our regular journey towards a small store owned by a Japanese family. I performed my regular routine, carefully placing the small metal wrench while lightly picking each pin, keeping the door in place. We had never been seen by anybody ever, which unfortunately fueled our arrogance to dismiss any possibility of being caught. We learned our lesson the hard way when we were crept up from behind by two men in bright neon jackets, who we quickly realized were policemen. They held us by the back of our jackets, and luckily I was able to cry. Whether it was on command or not is still in question, but tears were profusely exiting my eyes, which won the undeserved sympathy of the officers. They drove us back to our homes, and our journey for that day came to a close. It was during that car ride when I learned that our half-innocent expeditions were what others called breaking and entering and shoplifting. The formality of those titles and the negativity that came with it discouraged me, taking away much of my motivation to keep this story going. However, it wasn't only that experience that stopped my nighttime adventures for good, as it was what came when I returned home that night, in which my father, as people like to call it, whooped my ass. That was how my career as a child criminal ended. However, my interest in opening doors hadn't developed enough to be considered an addiction, not even a passion. I always grew up loving music. I picked up my first instrument when I was 6 years old. My mother had a plastic piano in one hand and a bamboo shoehorn in the other, which, with the description of my childhood with my father earlier, you can get the picture. But I was interested in music before that. Never was I really a talent with the piano, which was why I picked up the guitar. From then I found countless instruments along the way: the trumpet, the trombone, the tuba, the clarinet, the bass, the drums, the saxophone, and countless more. If you see me around the school building, it is likely you will see me plugged in with earphones, humming and bobbing my head. You might even walk past me and hear me curse you out, but I'm talking to Meek Mill here, not you. I remember Maddie Abraham once came up to me and said, "Stop listening to music in public. It makes you look antisocial." To which I replied, "Shut up." I remember Catherine Payson had once told me, "You always have your earphones in. It makes you look depressed." Regardless of how people see me, I always stayed plugged. Regardless of how people see me, I always stayed plugged. It made me happy. It kept me sane. When I discovered that I can create my own music, it opened a whole new spectrum for me, as I discovered that the world was malleable, and only I can stop myself from bending it. Sure, you could call it an addiction. Sure, you could call it a passion. You start to realize that in context, the two are quite similar, just that whatever you do is assigned to one of the categories based on what people think of it. Sure, Nick Lee can call his 5 hours a day Madden grind as an addiction, but it won't be once he makes it to the big leagues, where people will start calling it a passion, seeing his name on the headlines next to his caption, aggressive Asian _YT. But seriously, till 9:59 p.m. Monday through Saturday, until 9:59 a.m. on Sundays, get the hell out of my room. So when is it a passion, and when is it addiction? My answer: who cares? What we have to realize, everyone in this chapel right now will become dust in the wind. We're all alive one day, and then we won't be. This chapel will be filled with new faces, and the skin on you, your hands resting on your lap, will disappear. I look at myself in the mirror, then I realize this pretty face won't be around forever. Much like Mr. G had told us, not Mr. G in the dining hall, the one from the Drug Addiction Awareness Center. Low voice, he did a lot of heroin. He said, "Let's get high on life." So what are we waiting for? Let's look for something to get high on. Thank you.